Like I told people, I said, if Miss Wallace would have called me and told me to shut it down, I would have shut it down. Miss Wallace ain't called. She knew how to get in touch with me. If Miss Wallace didn't tell me to shut it down, I'm going to keep doing it because I respect you, Miss Wallace.
And that was to destroy East Coast rap. And what I mean by that, and I know people gonna be like, yo, Gene is out of his mind and everything like that. Check this out, brother.
For years, we believed the story was simple. Biggie Smalls, the Notorious B I G, was a legend whose legacy was fiercely protected. His mother, Voletta Wallace, stood as the unwavering guardian of his name, image, and artistry. She was the pillar keeping his voice alive, ensuring that Christopher Wallace, the man behind the music, would remain untarnished by the greed and chaos that so often follow fame. Fans took comfort in this narrative, picturing her as a mother lion, her claws outstretched to defend her son's memory. But what if everything we thought we knew about Biggie's legacy was a lie? What if behind the scenes, loyalty had been quietly traded for secrecy and profit?
3 law firms on retainer. I don't know how much money is coming in, but I know that a lot of money is going out every single month for Diddy.
In a shocking turn of events, it has come to light that Biggie's estate, once valued at over $160 million, has been sold to a faceless corporate giant. Yes, you heard that right. The empire Biggie built with his words and his soul, protected by his family for decades, has been handed over in a secretive deal to Primary Wave, an investment powerhouse known for snapping up the rights to legendary artists. But here's the kicker. The sale happened just weeks after Voletta Wallace passed away. That's right, the one person who had fought tooth and nail to preserve her son's legacy was no longer alive to defend it. The timing? Chillingly convenient. Now we have to ask ourselves, was this a calculated move? Did those who claim to be protecting Biggie's estate wait for Voletta's voice to be silenced before making their move? The deal, cloaked in secrecy, has sparked outrage and heartbreak among fans, and even whispers of betrayal among those close to the family. Voletta's demise wasn't just a personal loss, it marked the end of an era, the shattering of the illusion that Biggie's legacy was in safe hands. And as details of this deal emerge, we're left wondering, is this really about preserving Biggie's memory, or is it about something far more sinister? Behind closed doors, in boardrooms far from the streets of Brooklyn that Biggie once called home, agreements were signed and hands were shaken. Primary Wave now owns 50% of Biggie's estate, a partnership that includes his publishing rights, recordings, and even his name and likeness. In other words, they've taken control of the very essence of who Biggie was as an artist and a cultural icon. And while the company claims its goal is to keep the legacy of the Notorious B I G alive, we can't help but question their motives. Is this really about honoring an artist's work? Or is it about wringing every last dollar out of his name? What makes this even more disturbing is the timing. Voletta Wallace passed away in February, and by March, the ink on the deal was dry. Coincidence? Or were those behind the sale waiting for the one person who would never allow such a betrayal to be gone? It's worth noting that Voletta was intimately involved in running Biggie's estate for years, growing it from a modest $10 million at the time of his passing to a sprawling empire worth over $160 million. She had fought to wrestle control of Biggie's publishing back from Sean Diddy Combs, increasing the estate's share from 50% to 85% in the early 2000s and eventually securing full ownership in 2020. This was a woman who understood the value of her son's work and who ensured that his legacy was handled with dignity. And now, it seems, all of that has been undone.
Right now, Davis is fighting for bail ahead of his trial, which he has pleaded not.
Adding another layer of mystery to this already tangled web is the question of who's really behind the sale. Yes, Primary Wave may now hold the keys to Biggie's empire, but rumors are swirling about a hidden buyer, someone pulling the strings from the shadows. Could it be a figure from Biggie's tumultuous career, someone with unfinished business or secrets to bury? The timing and secrecy surrounding this deal have left many wondering if this is more than just a business transaction. Could this be part of a larger scheme to erase or exploit Biggie's history? After all, when corporations take control of an artist's legacy, they don't just own the music, they own the narrative. And then there's the money. The estate was valued at over $200 million, yet reports suggest the deal was struck for just 50% of its worth. Why sell for so little? And where is the money going? Whispers of financial mismanagement have begun to surface, with some speculating that Biggie's estate may have been used as collateral for secret loans or other undisclosed ventures. Could it be that Biggie's artistry, his blood, sweat, and tears, was mortgaged to fund someone else's ambitions? Offshore accounts, hidden transactions, and unexplained expenses have all been hinted at, leaving fans and family alike demanding answers.
Miss Wallace is a strong lady. You know what I'm saying? Miss Wallace, you know, and I'm not saying because she's Jamaican, you know, or anything like that, that she got that down home, like she is about her business.
Imagine how Biggie's 2 children must feel. His daughter Tiana and son Christopher Jr. have already lost their father, and now they're watching as the empire he built is stripped away piece by piece. How much of this deal will actually benefit them? Or are they being left out, just like Voletta, as others profit from Biggie's legacy? One can't help but feel the weight of the betrayal. This wasn't just an artist, this was a father, a son, a man who poured his life into his music. To see his work reduced to a corporate asset is nothing short of heartbreaking.
But believe it or not, my son was my best friend. I miss him a lot.
For Tiana and Christopher Jr., the exploitation of their father's estate is more than just a betrayal. It's a theft of their connection to him. Biggie wasn't just a hip-hop icon, he was a father who adored his children, often referencing them in his music and interviews. Yet, as the estate changes hands and corporate entities take control, the emotional bond they have to their father's legacy risks being diluted or even erased. How can they feel ownership over their father's memory when decisions about his name, image, and artistry are being made by strangers in boardrooms? This kind of systematic sidelining isn't just about money, it's about erasing the personal ties that keep a family's love alive. Despite their father's fame, Tiana and Christopher Jr. have led relatively private lives, steering away from the spotlight their father once commanded. Tiana in particular has taken steps to honor her father in her own way, launching a clothing line inspired by his legacy. But even this heartfelt effort to keep her father's memory alive is dwarfed by the massive corporate machine now profiting off his name. How can a personal tribute compete with the global exploitation of a brand that was once so intimately tied to their family? It's a cruel irony that the very industry Biggie helped shape now threatens to overshadow the voices of his own children.
I knew that somebody was going to that night. Somebody was going to get shot.
The emotional toll of this betrayal must be unimaginable. For Christopher Jr., who was just an infant when his father passed, this estate was supposed to be a way of understanding and connecting with the man he never got to know. Instead, he's left to sift through a legacy that feels increasingly out of his control. Imagine what it must be like to see your father's face plastered on products or used in campaigns you had no say in, knowing that others stand to gain, while you're left with nothing but questions. Is this the future Biggie would have wanted for his children? Or is it a stark reminder of how greed can strip even the most personal legacies of humanity? And let's not forget the bigger picture. What does this say about the music industry as a whole? Tiana and Christopher Jr.'s experience is a harsh reflection of a system that often sees artists and their families as little more than commodities to be sold. The human cost of this exploitation is staggering, leaving not just the artists' legacies in ruins, but also the families who deserve to inherit them. It's hard not to wonder, if this is happening to Biggie's children, how many other families have been quietly erased from the legacies of their loved ones? At what point does the industry stop being about art and start being about pure, unrelenting greed?
But tell me, man, why do you believe that Jay and Puffy is close, even though Jay's lawyer came out and said they're not?
Because Jay-Z and Puff was given an assignment.
And let's not forget the fans. Biggie Smalls wasn't just a rapper. He was a voice for a generation, a storyteller who painted vivid pictures of life, struggle, and triumph. His music wasn't just entertainment, it was art, a cultural touchstone that resonated with millions. To see his legacy now entangled in a web of corporate greed and backroom deals feels like an insult to everything he stood for. Biggie once rapped, "Mo money, mo problems." And it seems those words have never rung truer. But the questions don't stop there. What happens now that Primary Wave has control? Will they honor Biggie's legacy or will they exploit it? Will his music be licensed to sell products he would have never endorsed? Will his image be plastered on merchandise that cheapens his memory? And what about the unreleased material? Will it be handled with care or will it be churned out for profit, stripped of the context and meaning that Biggie himself would have wanted?
And they was getting a lot of money to make albums and records. When they had guys down south that these labels was paying $250,000, $300,000 on record deals, and these guys was bringing back platinum albums and everything like that. So what they had to do was they had to keep New York rapping.
As we dig deeper into this story, one thing becomes clear. There's more going on here than meets the eye. This isn't just about a business deal, it's about power, control, and the lengths some people will go to for a payday. It's about the betrayal of a family, the exploitation of an artist, and the erosion of a legacy that was supposed to be untouchable. The question now is, who's really pulling the strings? And what else are they hiding?
Gene, here go Miss Wallace.
Hey, Miss Wallace, Gene Deal.
Oh, hi, Gene. How are you?
All right, man, you know I ain't seen you since I came to your house and had that conversation with you. How you been? You all right?
I've been okay. I've been watching you on stage.
But if we thought the shocking sale of Biggie's estate was the ultimate betrayal, then the next layer of this twisted narrative plunges us into something far darker and far more chilling. For decades, whispers about Sean Diddy Combs have haunted the music industry, whispers that connect him to the most infamous tragedies in hip-hop history, the untimely demises of both Shakur and Biggie Smalls. And now, with new testimonies and revived investigations, those whispers are growing louder, pointing to a man who may have been willing to do the unthinkable to secure his empire. It starts with Shakur. The East Coast-West Coast feud of the 1990s was already boiling over, fueled by diss tracks, public spats, and violent altercations. But according to damning allegations, Diddy wasn't just a player in the feud. He was the mastermind behind its most devastating moment. Enter Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, a Southside Crips member who claims he was at the center of it all. In police interviews and his memoir, Keefe D. alleges that Diddy himself offered him millions to eliminate Shakur and Suge Knight. Yes, you heard that right, millions of dollars to erase his biggest rival and the head of Death Row Records.
She was, I think, understanding clearly what had happened. And I think she was starting to see that other people were responsible than who she previously had believed.
Keefe D's account is chilling. He describes a meeting with Diddy, surrounded by his entourage, where the deal was allegedly discussed, as casually as a business contract. According to Keefe D, Diddy said, "I'll give anything for that dude's head." The dude, of course, being Suge Knight. But Keefe D claims the bounty soon extended to Shakur as well, especially after the release of Hit 'Em Up, the diss track that ripped into Diddy, Biggie, and the entire Bad Boy Records crew. Diddy, he says, was desperate to protect his position at the top, and in his eyes, Shakur had to go. The details are almost too horrifying to believe. Keefe D claims the money was arranged, the Southside Crips were tasked with the job, and on the night of September 7, 1996, they carried out the plan. Shakur and Suge Knight were driving down the Las Vegas Strip when a white Cadillac pulled up beside them. Shots rang out, Shakur was struck multiple times, and 6 days later he passed away. Suge Knight survived, but the damage was done. And while Keefe D insists his nephew, Orlando Babylane Anderson, was the one who pulled the trigger, it's his claims about Diddy that have reignited this decades-old mystery. Was it all orchestrated from a boardroom, with money exchanging hands while blood was spilled on the street?
Yes. Yes. He hated every bit of it. I remember one time, he was like, who did you grow up listening to? I'm like, Tupac. I ain't mentioned Biggie. That nigga ain't even talk to me for like 4 days after that. Everything with Pac, like, you couldn't say Pac was anything better than Biggie.
And yet, the story doesn't end there. Just 6 months later, Biggie Smalls himself was gunned down in Los Angeles in an eerily similar drive-by. The world was still reeling from Shakur's loss, and now the East Coast had lost its biggest star. But here's where things get even more twisted. What if Biggie's demise wasn't just another tragic chapter in the feud? What if it was part of a larger plan? Let's not forget, Biggie Smalls wasn't just Diddy's protege. He was the backbone of Bad Boy Records. His albums were smashing records, his singles were dominating the charts, and his influence was skyrocketing. But according to rumors that have lingered for years, Biggie's success may have been threatening to outgrow Diddy's control. Some in the industry have whispered that Biggie was planning to leave Bad Boy, taking his incredible talent and massive earnings with him. Could it be that Diddy saw this as a threat he couldn't afford to let materialize?
Diddy hated Pac. Facts. hated his guts. Hated him.
Here's where things get even more unsettling. Many have speculated that Biggie's demise conveniently shifted the spotlight away from Diddy's alleged involvement in Shakur's end. After all, with both stars gone, the East Coast-West Coast feud was effectively neutralized, leaving Diddy free to rise as hip-hop's ultimate mogul. But at what cost? Was Biggie's demise a tragic coincidence, or was it a calculated move to tighten Diddy's grip on Bad Boy? The timing is suspicious, to say the least. Biggie was taken out on March 9th, 1997, just months after Shakur. He had traveled to Los Angeles to promote his album and attend the Soul Train Music Awards. Despite the heightened tensions following Shakur's passing, Biggie's security was shockingly minimal, a decision that has raised eyebrows for years. How could someone as high profile as Biggie be left so vulnerable in a city still mourning Shakur's loss? And why wasn't more done to protect him, especially given the stakes?
Why they ain't gonna let Puffy out is because they trying to connect that Keefe D situation with Puffy. That's what I really think it is. Because if it came down to some sex trafficking, foolishness, and all that there of buku chumped up charges they couldn't prove, I don't think they got no evidence. I think they trying to keep him in there to lock in that Keefe D. You heard me? That Keefe D situation with Puff. I think that's the only reason why he's still in jail.
Theories about Biggie's demise have swirled ever since. Some suggest that rivalries within the industry played a role, while others point fingers at law enforcement corruption or gang-related retaliation. The notion that Diddy himself might have gained from Biggie's passing is a hypothesis that persists. After all, with Biggie gone, Diddy became the undisputed face of Bad Boy Records. The narrative shifted, making Diddy the grieving friend and business partner, while any whispers about his alleged involvement in Shakur's tragedy faded into the background. And let's not forget the financial implications. Biggie's demise turned him into a legend overnight, skyrocketing the value of his music and making Bad Boy Records one of the most profitable labels of the late 90s. Diddy's career exploded in the aftermath, with hits like I'll Be Missing You, cementing his status as a global superstar. But was this success built on the backs of his fallen comrades? It's a question that haunts the legacy of the man who once claimed to be the king of hip-hop.
And ain't no other way they gonna keep you in there of, Diddy did this to me. Oh, Diddy did that to me. I'm suing him. Oh, we got enough evidence to... No, you don't. That's accusations. That's not factual, brother. You dig? So I feel like the factual thing that they're really trying to aim for is the key for D.
As we unravel these allegations, the picture that emerges is one of a man willing to do whatever it takes to stay on top. From the streets of Brooklyn to the boardrooms of Manhattan, Diddy's rise has been nothing short of meteoric. But how many lives were shattered along the way? If these claims are true, then Diddy's empire wasn't just built on talent and ambition, it was built on betrayal, secrecy, and potentially unimaginable cruelty. So where does this leave us? The investigations into Shakur and Biggie's demises remain open, with new evidence and testimonies continuing to surface, but will we ever truly know the truth? And if we do, what will it mean for Diddy's legacy? Will he finally face accountability, or will the secrets of the past remain buried just like the icons we lost? What do you think? Are these rumors just the stuff of conspiracy, or is there something far darker lurking beneath the surface? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and remember, in the world of fame and fortune, nothing is ever as it seems.